Welcome to the Awakening Podcast. You can find all our episodes on awakeningpodcast.org. I'm joined with Arnold, my co-host for Sane in an Insane World. And we, as always, we'll tell you what we're going to talk about to see if you're going to stay around with us. But I'm sure you do, because we always cover a lot of interesting things. So news, Spain mobile crash, bees declining, and the elections in Poland and Romania. AI replacing engineering coding, the first cyber brothel in Berlin, Google Gemini AI OS, and AI doesn't serve humanistic ends. Good News Caravan, World Bee Day, and I Will Listen. Health, Florida bans floor, CAT scan radiation exposure and cancer risk analysis, tropical rainforest lost, and garlic in your nose. Other topics: BBC and Israel image, legalized genocide, high income countries' impact on the environment, heart taken in Turkey from a British woman, and Harvard corrupt. So I suppose we'll start with Spain mobile crash. What's that about, Arnold?
Yes, literally 4 weeks ago, we mentioned that there was in Spain, Portugal, and even parts of France, there was the electricity outage. But now the whole entire mobile network in Spain has crashed a few days ago. There was no internet, no signal, even 112 for emergency didn't work. It broke down in major cities like Madrid and Barcelona, which are the two biggest cities there. The person who wrote this thing is like, well, isn't it a coincidence that after these power outages, now there's this mobile network crash because Spain has called out Israel for the genocide and it recognizes the Palestinian statehood. And it seems that, well, it looks like that is not so much a coincidence. So it looks like the powers in charge are using it as a way to, well, maybe blackmail you or influence people in Spain because they don't like it, and then they just turn off the power.
And I mean, I'm seeing loads of social media and everything. Anyone that wears the scarf kind of supporting Palestine, right? And they're just kicked out of buildings. They're just attacked as if it's not happening. And, you know, they're making it look like, oh, we can't, you know, Hamas and all this. But the reality is, if we look at this as it is, they've got this border and they've got technology that even spots an ant that wants to cross the border. All of it was orchestrated, that they let these people in. What, there was no military to come around and stop this? So the whole thing is orchestrated, just like the Spanish thing. And yet anyone that's coming out talking about this, you know, they're shut. And same with all the products. I know a lot of people now are stopping to take products from Israel. But if you look back, I think I mentioned it before, like Jaffa, oranges from Jaffa were the, you know, that's where Tel Aviv, like, so they were Palestine. So it was Palestine. They're kind of saying, oh, it's our country and all this, but there's proof there that it's not, but nobody wants to hear that. But enough on that anyway. But let's say the bees. So I know we're going to touch on it as well. But I'm seeing a lot of stuff on this, and hence why I wanted to kind of bees, particularly honeybees, are critical to the global ecosystems in agriculture as they pollinate a significant portion of crops we consume, which we've kind of mentioned a few times. They're declining massively. Beekeepers in the US lost 48.2% of their managed honeybee population from April 22 to April 23, and that making it one of the highest annual loss rates on record. In 25, honeybee colony losses in the US are projected to reach up to 70%, driven by a combination of factors such as nutrient deficiencies, mite infestations, and pesticide exposure. I mean, like, we know of all these biolabs, you know, they're spraying mosquitoes on us. Have they created the mites for this? I don't trust them for anything. But the thing that I believe that's causing this is, I mean, we've got the 5G towers, people have seen that where they're affecting them, but also on the sprays. They're spraying everything, they're pesticides, and the pesticides then are killing all these bees. And people don't realize how important this. I've seen videos in Portugal everywhere this is actually happening. And of course, the powers that be, like, I mean, I had a few days of no chemtrails, but back again now. But Florida has banned it, which it'll be interesting to see if we kind of track like Tennessee and Florida, their bee population, what's going on there. Do they start increasing? But yeah, it's just one to be really concerned about.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So the Polish elections is the next one, because obviously I'm Irish, but living in Poland. So there's two candidates remain in the presidential race. So the guy that I was talking about, fire extinguisher guy, and the guy that burned the EU flag, because they were kind of not giving him much notice, and saying, oh, maybe 2% or whatever, he got 6.5% or something like that. So it wasn't that bad. It was decent. But these two guys, Rafal, and the election is scheduled for the 1st of June. Trzaskowski, he's a civil coalition. His main points are focus on social issues and environmental policies, advocates for European integration and strengthening Poland's role within the EU, and emphasizes the importance of democracy and human rights. So that's something that alarm bells should start ringing. He's the current mayor of Warsaw, and he received 31.3% of the votes. The opposition.
You say that he's the mayor of Warsaw?
Yeah.
It's quite interesting because here in Romania, the guy who's been chosen is the mayor of Bucharest.
Yeah, they already make sure they're obedient and do what they're told, and then do this first, and then we'll give you the next job. Yeah. So the other guy, Karol Nawrocki, he's a populist right, backed by the ruling party. He promotes national sovereignty and traditional family values, supports economic growth through nationalistic policies, and advocates for a stronger stance on immigration and security. So straight away, he's a lot better than the thing. But the only thing is, he did, when they were on the show, it looked like he was doing cocaine, but it turns out it was snuff that he did, right? Why would you do that? But I'm hearing things, but I didn't have time to clarify. But it's like they want to do drug testing. So was he doing it to try and catch the other guy that he knows he's doing the white powder? I don't know, but it looked like, I mean, you're spotted, everything is taken. So would you actually, and kind of done it like that? So it was strange, but I think it was intentional to make sure that they get drug tested, which in turn would catch the other fellow out. So, and this Carol got 29.7% of the vote, which it's a close call. But then I was kind of checking, all right, who's actually supporting them of the other people, because that can swing it a lot of the way. So some haven't come out yet, but Shimon Hawalavina, an independent candidate, he received approximately 15% of the vote. So he's going for Yemen Rafal, the first fella, and another guy, Władysław Kamish, the Polish Peasant Party, with around 10%. He's going for him as well. So yeah, it's interesting. I'll keep you updated next week. But I mean, for me, I'd go for the Carol based on what he's for. Whereas anything to do with the EU, they have destroyed Ireland, they've destroyed your country, they've destroyed everywhere. So if someone is pro-EU, don't vote for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that brings me to last weekend. We had the second round of the presidential elections here in Romania. And what I'm showing here is a list of which is supposed to be a voting list here in Romania, but the deceased people. So there has been a political analyst who has done some calculation, and he has found in 2 districts and 2, or even they call it communes, there were more than 500 dead people on the list. So these were very, very small communes where he did the test, and we've calculated that if you extrapolate this, 1.7 million dead people are on the list. So these people had a vote, and obviously on the pro-EU candidate. But you might say 1.7 million, but I was just in my head doing some calculation. The total population in Romania is approximately 20 million. Well, to exclude, folks younger than 18, whatever. So what's that? 10, 12 million? So 1.7 out of 10 is huge.
Massive. And I mean, you don't get 100% voting as well. It's usually 50% or something like that. So
yeah, so that is a huge percentage of dead people who supposedly have been voting. Obviously, the candidate who won by a far majority, the first one, he's called George Simeon. He came now second, whereas in the first one, the guy who became fifth, who is the mayor of Bucharest, he won, which is really strange. Yeah. So what the George Simeon did, he submitted a request to cancel the subscription because there was interference. Well, there was these deceased people who were supposedly, but the main thing, what happened and has been confirmed and has been checked, is that France was trying to interfere in the elections by their intelligence officer, because France has approached Telegram, the messaging app, maybe number 2 or after WhatsApp, Telegram. They've approached Telegram and say, we want you to censor Romanian conservative voices on your platform. And the founder of Telegram, Pavel Durov, he's the founder, he said that he was willing to testify that he was approached by the French to silence these conservative voices. So that's what he publicly said. He's like, hey, I'm willing to testify for that. So already George Simeon, he approached that constitutional court, but guess what? The case was already discussed. I think it was last Friday. And guess what? They, after a few minutes, while he was explaining his case, they rejected his case. So it's like something which, I assume if you try to explain this and what's happening, it will take close to an hour, I guess. Yeah? And where you explain this thing. But after a few minutes, you say, well, thank you very much. Your request is canceled. We don't accept it. Goodbye. that is the current situation here, is that the fraud case where they have a clear proof, evidence, everything, even a witness, like the Telegram founder, is like, no, case closed, everything's fine. So really curious about what's going to happen here, but it's clear that we are not living in a democracy anymore. It's a full dictatorship.
I mean, I saw they said about Ireland. I mean, 100% they didn't get the votes. So I think that's going on all over the world. I mean, they figured out ways of actually getting fake votes, and they're just doing it. And then it's kind of, if it goes to a court that's already controlled, they just agree with what their masters tell them.
Absolutely.
So AI, I suppose, AI replacing engineering.
Engineering and coding. What used to be, and still is, I guess, but that will be rapidly changing, is one of the highest paid jobs are AI engineers and AI and coders in general, or whatever. That is fastly disappearing because now it's being confirmed that by tech founders, like startups where they start new things, is that they are reporting that 90%, 90% of all the ship code is AI generated. So it's not a human being coding all day. That's, by the way, what a lot of IT guys, I live in a city called Cluj. It's called the IT capital of Romania. That's where most of these people have a job. They're coding all day. But now it says 90% of your coding is already being done by AI. And related to that, engineering guys, they design and prepare and implement what needs to be coded and how it needs to be look like, those guys are also completely being replaced by AI. But maybe they can find solace in the next item, right?
Yeah, this is one that I mean, I kind of knew it was coming, but I wasn't expecting Brothel. I knew they were making dolls, like so. Berlin's first cyber brothel, a modern intersection of robotics and adult services, where advanced technology is integrated into sexual wellness and adult entertainment. It opened in October 22nd, 23. And like basically what people are doing, interactive experience. Customers can interact with life-size silicone dolls that can be customized hair, color, outfit. Virtual reality helmets enhance the experience with immersive audio and visual effects. The dolls can demonstrate emotions and read to customers' actions. Communication is provided through dubbing actresses in English and German. Customer demographics, 98% are male. Yes, average customers kind of 32, 33 years of age, and the pricing is like the VR enhanced experience can cost approximately €130. And it's interesting actually when you go into the website, all the different prices and the different things that they're offering and heating up an extra $4 and all this. It's strange. It's so strange. The procedures, the customer goes through a booking process. They can select specific services and customize their experience. The establishment maintains strict confidential with no interactive records kept after each use. Dolls are thoroughly cleaned with water and a pH neutral soap followed by hydrogen peroxide disinfection. And how I came across it, I was listening to a video and the girl was basically saying like people are doing kind of crazy crap with this. And because it's a doll, it's not saying no and whatever, but people are kind of living their fantasies, which in turn they can act out in society, which can be extremely dangerous. And the other side of this is like when this is getting so advanced that people will not be in relationships anymore. They'll be happy to have their doll at home that will talk to them and do anything they want. And it's just destroying humanity. And the cybersecurity risk. I mean, there's even saying that there could be malfunctions and things like that. But I mean, we know about the Diddy and all these Epstein things like tapes hanging up. Are they recording everything? So
You can already see in
and look on, right? It looks like a camera, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, even the hygiene element and everything. And I reckon it's obviously it's a success. I think they're going to just start appearing all around the world now as well. But I think the problem is going to happen is people are going to have these at home, and their life will be with a doll. They'll no longer engage in humanity, and mental health issues and everything will go through the roof. They think they're grand because they're talking to a doll, and everything is recorded. And what does it do to them? They understand humanity. Like if you think, I mean, we mentioned about the photocopiers, like every single thing is tracking us. So with this, a doll with VR and everything, they know exactly what you're doing. So is it can catch anyone of high profile, judges, policemen, politicians, the whole lot, and go, hey, we know what you're into, and then blackmail them, and then they do what they want. And then we're looking at all these top leaders going, how in the name are they doing this against the people? And I think a lot of the times it's when they're actually doing it in brothels and things like that. But now, if they're starting doing this as well, they'll have way more recording on it because there's so much technology that can know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, but you slightly mentioned it, but it's like if people are kind of invited to do crazy things with these dolls, when they encounter a real person, they will do the same because that's what they're used to. Yeah, so they do these crazy things, or well, maybe become violent towards that person. But it's like, oh, the doll was okay, but you was not okay. Yeah, so it's really ugly, yeah.
Google introducing Gemini.
Yeah, there was this week a huge announcement by Google, which introduced a whole suite of products, a whole portfolio of products under the Gemini umbrella. Gemini is their, I'm not sure whether, but let's call it their branding of their AI offerings. Yeah? So they got all kinds of AI things, but the name under which they is called Gemini, and now it's been introduced everything from video to talk to, you can name it anything. So what Gemini now has become is like an AI operating system. So it's like everything you do on your computer is being driven by AI, is being driven by this Gemini if you are a Google user and you do these things. And I already saw, where most attention goes is VO, which is their video producing AI. Is like you only have to put in a few texts and just a few prompts. Just type in a few prompts. I want a video about Roy explaining how you can leverage your podcast. You will have in no time. You will have a video which would look like real people, with sound, with audio, with text, everything in it. And if you see those videos, you think they're 100% real, meaning with real people, with real people talking with real people. I've seen a few. You can find them on the everywhere. It's totally incredible because there was no human involved. The people explaining these things are not like, if you do a real video, you got to hire actors and copywriters and text writers and
Cameramen.
and light and audio man and everything. Yeah, this is just I don't know, 1 minute, 2 minute. It's there. You got your video and it looks 200% professional. And so people are really excited about it, and I think it's sad because it's like, this is what's happening to our world, is that we are totally replacing every human being in the planet with AI, yeah? And having all of your stuff, like Google is promoting now, all of your stuff on your operating system, which basically means everything your computer does is AI driven. It means you can say goodbye to human beings.
And with the social media, there's a load of people now, they're making a fortune because they're having, like, you wouldn't know, you think they're real. They have everything, and it's so easy to do. You can just give it little prompts and it's creating the videos, and they're getting millions of downloads, and they're competing with people then like ourselves, creating content that we're doing research, everything, putting it out there. And unfortunately, when they're run by the likes of Google and different companies that aren't got the best of humanity's interest at heart, they're biased, and people don't know. They just spew out what they're given. So you have to be very careful on that as well. And I saw one guy, because I know trafficking is massive, it's like human trafficking, and kind of going back on your first thing with like the AI creating, there's apps now that'll actually create websites and create programs and everything. And this guy gave the prompts, and it created that it can stop child porn immediately before it's uploaded, that it reaches out, finds out, and stops it and infects a virus on it, and then it informs authorities and everything. And he's trying to get that out there, but he actually created this and it's working. But he needs the YouTubes, the Google and all these different companies to actually have that in their system. But I don't think they will. But it is possible to use technology to stop all the horrible things going on in the world. So, the next one doesn't serve humanistic.
Yeah, it was from a mailing from Patrick. He's the guy running the Technocracy website. This is the depiction of, bits and bytes moving everywhere, and he did an experiment himself. And that experiment was he had a paid Chat GPT version, and he asked it the question, and the question behind it was like, why should we use AI, or what is AI for? And I will spare you all the details and whatever. But the main conclusion, and it's the conclusion by Chat GPT. It's not his conclusion. The conclusion, I'm going to read it for you, and it says, in its dominant social role, which we have just been discussing, from having brothels to having dead people vote, so everything. So in its dominant social role, AI does not serve humanistic ends. The humanistic ends are thought, reflection, and memory. No, it says it serves technocratic ends, which mean flow, regulation, and momentum. Okay? So what he concludes is that AI's prime directive is control. It seeks any and all streams of live data that it can get its hand on in order to manipulate, regulate, and control. AI is not interested in static data except for training purposes. So please do understand that everything what we've been discussing today, but basically every week around AI, and now AI itself is confirming this. So it is not Patrick's opinion or Roy or Arnold's opinion. It's like AI is not here to help you. AI is here to control you. So be very, very careful in the way you use and apply it.
Oh, good news, Carvin. I mean, we already talked about the bees, but we've got World V Day. Well, this is good because we get about a month for LGBT plus NOIQ, but World B Day is a good thing to have. So what's it all about?
When was World Bee Day? Did you celebrate it, Roy?
Well, what I do actually is in my garden, I let the front of the house with all the dandelions and everything. I don't cut it there. So I leave a part of my garden for wildlife. Because when I'm, if you're doing a grill or whatever, I can't let the whole lot because it just looks unsightly. But there's one part of the house that I let. So that's what I do for the bees.
But my question was, when was World Bee Day?
I didn't even know there was a World Bee Day, Arnold.
There was. So put it in your agenda for next year. It's the 20th of May. Yeah? And what they did in the UK, we see a lot of ugly news out of the UK, but this was really good news, is that somewhere a teacher, whatever, is that they have installed beehives in a 17th century walled garden, and a beekeeper is helping children to connect with nature as part of the World Bee Day celebrations. Yeah, so really getting children to see what a beehive is, how does it work, what does it do, whatever. And I think, especially with children, is really crucial because, well, yeah, unfortunately, it's not a joke here. When you ask these days, children is like, where's milk coming from? It's from the supermarket. Yes, yeah. It's from a white cow, and chocolate milk is from a brown cow. So if you don't understand these things, you cannot take action. You cannot respond with it. But if you're really convinced and say, hey, this is a beehive, these are the bees, this is how it works, this is how it does, you get this feeling of this connection, which is really, really crucial. So I thought it was a really nice initiative.
And just before you go on to the next one, because I used to be terrified of bees, and I'm actually allergic because I got stung in the hand and I got a massive when I was younger and in the side. So I'm kind of conscious of that. So I used to kind of freak out when I see a bee, and then I got kind of more relaxed. Don't freak out. So your vibrations are don't freak out. So they don't freak out. So what I would say to people is sometimes, even if they're in the house, sometimes that time they might come in, open the window, just relax, and they'll go out. And don't be freaking, or don't be, slapping them and squashing them and everything. Or if you're out in the garden having a cider or something like that, don't react, because that's what we do. And then they see the reaction and the swiping and everything. If you just keep calm, they won't sting you, they won't touch you.
Well, it's actually the same thing with dogs. You know, a lot of people are afraid of dogs, but if you radiate that fear, that's why the dog responds to you. Huh?
Exactly.
And if you just like, hey, nice dog, whatever. I get all the dogs. They go crazy when they see me. It's like, yeah. But that's just your energy. They react to your energy. They're life forms just like you and me. I'm sure they get the same feeling like you and me. So it's like, that's how they respond. Huh?
Next one, I will listen. So obviously I need this one because when you asked me the question about the bees, I didn't really listen. I went away on a tangent. So what's this about?
This is an initiative from a guy. I believe he's in Scotland, but it doesn't matter. It's a guy who just provided this service. He for the folks listening, it's a guy who has a small set of table and a set of chairs he puts in the park, and a big sign which says, "You are not alone. I will listen." Hmm? So that's what he does is like, if you just want to talk with someone who will really listen. So a real human being, guys, not an AI friend. This is a real human being. Where he has been a social worker all of his life. So this is having a huge impact on people. Hmm? I think to a certain extent, it's sad that these things are needed. But this is what the guy does. He travels around. He puts his chairs and a table in his car, and then he puts it in different spots, and he invites people to talk with you. It's my personal experience. Is like people, well, I don't know, or strangers, whatever. Within 10 minutes, they start sharing all of it. Like people really want someone to listen. We're not really listening. And this is what this man is doing, and I think it's excellent work. Yeah, it's for free. You don't have to pay. It's just like you can share your things, and I can tell you, well, both as a receiver and and then the transmitter is like it's really makes you feel good. Makes you feel good both as a listener and as a talker. It's really important that we look each other in the eyes and talk about whatever we want to talk about.
And if it's so beneficial and it takes off, the authorities then will actually say, where's your permit? And try to stop all this because all they try to do is stop people from actually healing. So make sure that if they do that, don't allow them.
Yeah, or ask them to listen themselves.
Florida banned fluoride.
Yeah, it's been officially now in the legislation, so they take fluor out of the drinking water, which I think is really good news. Yeah, so millions of people have this good news where you get fluor because fluor is not good, and especially when it's too much. Yeah, so and that is in your drinking water. So there are more and more countries or states where they're banning it. So that's really important. Yeah, and that's why I encourage you to. Um, it's these days. It's quite easy. If you get your toothpaste, you can get toothpaste without fluor. Yeah? So that's a simple thing you can do yourself.
Oh, I had a girl early in the Awakening podcast. I had the girl against fluoride, and she was really trying to do it in Ireland to stop it, and not still there. It's sad, and I know some parts of the UK as well. They still have the fluoride, and yeah, should never be in the water. So next one's the CAT scans, and I mean I've got a few over the years. I think a lot of people would, and the radiation from CAT scans. It's the imaging. So for those watching, you'll see what it is. So it uses uh, basically it's like something like 58 times that of an X-ray if you're doing it on your chest, which is unreal. And they were doing tests as the University of California, San Francisco estimated how the current CAT imaging might contribute to future U.S. cancer cases. So they examined 140 healthcare facilities in 20 states, and it allowed them to analyze it. And yeah, I mean, it's basically saying that there's a correlation. They're saying there that they estimate that in 23 could result in almost 103,000 future cancers. If current practice continues, CAT scan might eventually account for 5% of all new cancer diagnoses in the US per year. And this is an international thing, but most people aren't aware of that. So, like, there is alternatives. So sometimes the doctor says, go away, get a CAT scan, and you say, grand, but find out what the alternatives are first before you do it. I mean, I don't think if you're getting one every 5 years or something like that, but sometimes there's people getting a lot of them, and you have to be aware of the dangers. So, tropical rainforest lost.
Yes, there has been a research. The picture which you see is a person living in the tropical rainforest, but having a mask for oxygen. That is really needed because in 2024, so that's last year, there's more tropical rainforest lost than ever. Right? So despite all the actions, what people are saying is like, no, there are more and more tropical rain. Lost means it's gone, it's destroyed. Eh? And it's like 67,000 square kilometers. 67,000. And I thought it's quite appropriate here. That is approximately the size of Ireland.
And Ireland used to be rainforest, but the British came in and chopped all that down. So, yeah.
So but this is what just last year. So it's not over time. No, it just last year they cut down everything, and it's basically a combination of they're cutting things, but the main thing what they're doing is they put it on fire. Yeah? And fire. And why are they doing that? Because they want to grow soy, because the soy they want to give to the pigs and the cows and everything else. Yeah? So that's why, well, it's a sad picture essentially, because, well, especially the Amazon, but all over the world, these forests, they are our oxygen. Hmm? That's what we need to breathe ourselves. Yeah? And if we keep on destroying these things, well, in a few years, not much will be left. So I think that has a huge impact on our health. Yeah? One of the main things, the pollution because of these fires, is like already years ago when I was in Malaysia, it's like the air was totally polluted because in Indonesia, whatever, they put kilometers and kilometers of thing on fire, and that pollutes the air or whatever, but it means like you choke, you cannot breathe. But this has been going on in Southeast Asia everywhere. It's like there's no clean air to breathe anymore, and that's what we need. So it's totally incredible what's happening. So we should stop that because it's really terrible.
Well, next one is, I mean, I didn't do that when I wasn't feeling the May West last week, but garlic in your nose.
Yeah, I saw this. Like you missed that one, right? And yeah, it sounds a bit funny, but it's like I think it's worth trying. Is like because it clears nasal blockages, it fights infection, it soothes swelling, and it boosts immunity. Just by putting two globes of thing in your nose, so you gotta find the right fit, obviously. But it's been proven from science that it works and why it works, and you have to get these how you call them, cloves or not?
Yeah, close.
Like you got to keep them in your nose for 7 to 10 minutes, and that's it. Then afterwards, maybe you can rinse with some water or whatever. But that's supposedly a healthy, inexpensive, simple way to, well, open up your nose.
I've seen videos a few years ago where they were doing that, and that a lot of people were saying so. I mean, people were even saying, I don't know, how could this work? And they were proving they're saying this, it actually does work. So I've seen a lot of people claiming that it does. And I mean, what you can do then when you're finished is give it to your worst enemy. You go, hey, I have some, I have some garlic for you for your cooking. So BBC in it for the next topics, the BBC in Israel. What's that about?
Yeah, there has been let me say, we've been talking about the difference between mainstream media and the alternative media, and how, well, the topics which they discuss and how they discuss these topics. It's like, for instance, I'm pretty sure in the Western media there's nothing mentioned about the fraud in the Romanian elections, and that has been totally ignored. There's no mention about that. What has well, a real picture of a whistleblower in the UK who who has come forward and says there's an official thing in the BBC that if you say anything negative about Israel or the genocide, you're not allowed to. So that's a rule within the BBC. So you could say it's like a personal opinion, but, well, I'm sure if you start searching for it, you can find the video of this lady talking about this. But this is really happening as we speak. Yeah? There's direct instructions to safeguard Israel's image.
So MAID is legalized genocide. So medical assistance in dying is called MAID in Canada, is one of the most expansive euthanasia and assisted dying programs in the world. While other countries are also allowing assisted dying, Canada's approach differs in terms of eligibility criteria, safeguards, and the proportion of deaths attributed to it. It accounts to 4.1% of deaths in 22, increased to 4.7% in 23. And how I found, I mean, I had heard about MAID, but there was somebody doing a video recently that's saying that's over 5% now, which is incredible. In Holland, Netherlands, assisted death accounts for 5.1% of deaths in 23, making it higher than Canada. But I don't know, it looks like Canada, might pass that out. Belgium is 2.5%. In the United States, while assisted dying is illegal in some states, Oregon and Washington, the proportion of deaths attributed to assisted dying is much lower. So it's like 0.6%. And in Canada, it's kind of bad. It's was limited to individuals whose natural death by reasonably foreseeable. However, the requirement was removed in 21, allowing individuals with chronic illness or disabilities to access MAID, even if they are not terminally ill. Canada is also set to expand MAID to include individuals with mental illness as the sole underlying condition, starting in 27, which we know is gone through the roof, mental health issues. Unlike the Holland and Belgium, Canada does not require that all reasonable treatment options. And like, I'll put the link in for the different stuff, but it's like it's gone through the roof. And I remember seeing a program a few years ago, and there was a guy, his rent had doubled, and he said, I can't afford it. And he was kind of ill anyway. I don't know what his issue was, but he was able to survive. And he said, I don't want to be living on the street. And they agreed for him to be killed. And like, that's a sad state of affairs. So this is euthanasia, and it's getting more and more around the world. And of course, the powers that be are just pushing this, and people just assume it's okay. The thing is, a lot of the time, like, people are paying into their national health all the time, and then it's like, oh, I've got cancer, and they go, oh yeah, you're on the waiting list 6 months, something you've paid into every month of your life, and then you get a 6-month wait list. They don't promote natural stuff. They promote chemo and all the stuff that's going to kill you anyway. So when people realize that I'm going to get cancer, there's so many people that can cure you, but that's all hidden. or you're not allowed to do it. And they'll push all the stuff that's going to kill you. And then people go, I don't want to go through this because I've seen my friend or a family member and how painful, and so they don't want the family to suffer. And the whole lot is orchestrated. And that's the sad state of affairs that what Canada's doing, but I can see this is going to be pushed around the world as well.
Yeah, it's in essence, it's I'm struggling to find the word because you say euthanasia. You in Greek means good. That's the reason why euthanasia was the event, because people who have insufferable pains, they're like people who were 100% burned or whatever, like huge pains, whatever. That euthanasia was like helping you with a good death. It's like, hey, this life is so horrible, you cannot do it. But it's become the frontier of that is being totally declining. Is like now even for, you can't afford your rent, bye. It's
like 1 in 20, Arnold. 5%, 1 in 20. That's
totally incredible. Yeah. So it's like, it's got nothing to do with, and that's why I say I'm struggling. There is a word in Greek for bad, but maybe some of the listeners can come up with it. It is bad euthanasia. It's like, because it's like, these are signs of a society that's not working. It's got nothing to do with your health or whatever. It's like, no, we are totally failing as a society. So it's, and if we say, okay, you cannot afford your rent, but why is that we call ourselves a civilized society that people cannot afford the rent? Well, they cannot even have a house. Yeah? I was one of them. Huh? It's like, that's the sign of something wrong with the society, not something wrong with you. I really would like to people to understand, because they think, oh, it's my thing. I'm a failure. I cannot afford my rent, whatever. No, your government didn't succeed in having affordable housing for you. It's their failure. It's not your failure. So please consider that everything has been put on you as an individual. It's your mistake. It's your failure. It's your fault. You're not good enough. That is part of the conditioning. It's not your fault. Okay, let me stop there because I'm going to go on with my rant for the next hour.
Usually I have a rant. Arnold's turn this week. So, high income countries' impact on the environment.
Yeah, what a lot of people say with impact on the environment, like pollution. And pollution is mean like, I got my chemical stuff on my factory and I put it in the river, or blow toxic smoke into the air. It's been there's a new study which you see here, a summary, is that companies from high income countries, which represent 70% of the population, are responsible for 50% of the environmental conflicts around the world. So 17% of the population, but they are responsible for 50% of the environmental conflicts. And then people might say, oh, it's China, but China is only 3.5%. So it's like, it's like we always say it's other countries. Yeah, it's like, oh, this is like Bangladesh, it's like China, it's like, oh, they're so polluting. No, it's us. Us meaning high income countries is that we are extremely having a negative impact on the environment. There's been legal cases of a famous steel company in the Netherlands, which has been there, I don't know, under ages or whatever, but the steel company, by the heat and everything, creates a lot of pollution. It's now from Tata, which is an Indian company, but its operator is that it destroys people who live there. All of the people who live there got cancer. So, and for generations. So it's like, we always say, like, no, we're okay. It's all of these countries in Asia and Africa, they pollute. No, it's us.
And
That
just
is
on
what
that, Toxic City on Netflix is about like a steel plant that was, and all the dust when they were moving all the stuff created birth defects, and they sued the city and eventually won. But like most people wouldn't even think that something like that could actually happen and be dangerous to your health.
absolutely. But it's like the flush stuff in your chemical waste in the nearby river. It's like it's happening all the time. Yeah? But it's in those countries like middle income, low income countries, you can see it. There's like we being the developed countries have a much higher negative impact.
And all the media and everything that says it's like, oh, Europe does this and it's only a fraction, and it's China and it's India. And I saw it today. I was going to cover it, but I didn't get enough time to do more research. But they've got like a safer nuclear system now that's not toxic, and it'll be like free energy for them, and they'll be able to put it. So the testing has worked out. So the reality is, all of the products that are sold, consumerism is the main problem in the States. I mean, they're the biggest buyer, but I mean, I see it like people just buy shit the whole time. They buy it, that doesn't last. It's intentionally made not to last, and then they just dump it. And it's like all these refuse collection make it look like, oh, we're recycling the plastic. They don't. They dump it or they burn it. It's all a lie. I mean, I've caught that. I've got proof from that from a few countries. So yeah, it's all toxic shit that we're breeding.
A simple example is like, and what is you cannot see out of this picture here is that there is a lot of which was extremely polluting energy. We companies we would outsource it to Bangladesh, India, and China, so that we wouldn't have those dirty things. But they're making product not for their own market, but for us. A most simple example, but very sad example, are jeans. I'm wearing jeans right now. But have you seen how they make jeans and the chemicals and the polluted water and everything? They're not making it in the West. They're making it in all of these other countries, where the water becomes extremely polluted. But it's your jeans.
And plus, I've seen with the colouring, the people's hands are coloured permanently from the colours that they use. And, linen was taken out of hospitals, and it's a health thing. So a lot of the stuff, the frequency in clothes and the colouring and everything, people don't realise it. It's toxic, and they're going to sleep in it as well. And unfortunately, we have to go in and research that as well and make sure all the clothes that you have isn't leaching toxins into you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, this is one that I kind of learned about this week as well. There was a family, and his name is Beth, her husband Luke, and they went from the UK to Istanbul for a holiday, and she thought she got food poisoning and wasn't feeling great, so got an ambulance, brought her to the hospital, and yeah, the husband wasn't allowed to go in, and eventually, like within a day, she was dead. And the basically wanted prove that you're going to pay the $2,500, because there was a girl on a video that's a friend of hers, and she was saying all the different things. And how I know they do things like that, when my son was born, we were trying to do a natural birth, and then they said, oh, the coil is over the child's neck, we have to do an emergency section. And you would think they'd just do it. Documentation, please sign that you'll pay for this. And I was like, fucking hell. And afterwards I researched that, and they do it constantly. It's a way of making money. So that's how hospitals work. So getting back to this poor lady, it's, you might have to go in and collect the body and bring it down the corridor. And there was just, every single thing was traumatized. But they were really trying to cremate the body and but they wanted to bring it back. When they got back to the UK, the heart was missing. And they have no way. They're just, so was she actually murdered for a heart transplant for the black market? Why else would they take out the heart? And like my fare, even I had an issue when I went to Turkey, and they were saying, I'll go to the hospital and I say, no, you're grand, I'm okay. And I just kind of stayed in pain. I don't trust hospitals. I don't trust hospitals in Cork. I've seen people being murdered all over the world in different countries because I have friends everywhere and they're telling me about the different things. But that is scary. And I mean, how much of that goes on, that there's organ transplants, and most people, they just kind of, because you go into shock when a loved one dies, especially unexpectedly, you're not thinking straight. So if they come along to look, oh, we'll cremate it, you go, yeah, because you're not going to, you're thinking of maybe the massive costs of bringing the body home and everything, and you never know what they've done. So it is scary that something like this can happen.
Well, that is when some people argue that it's part of the war in the Ukraine to harvest organs. It's a huge business. So it's no surprise that it's happening everywhere. Huh? Brings me to our last topic is that this is an article from a Harvard researcher who now no longer works there because he resigned because he says the university is totally corrupted. And let me read to you what he said. So this is from a guy who worked at Harvard and now not anymore. And he says, unlike many others at Harvard, I have no dramatic cancellation or intellectual persecution or struggle session to report. I stopped teaching at Harvard last year primarily because of its, and now it comes, anti-truth-seeking culture, radical left-wing bias, racial and gender discrimination, and prevailing anti-intellectualism, which made continued participation a poor use of time. There are exceptions, but on the whole, Harvard has strayed from its foundational mission of unbiased truth seeking and has become ideologically driven to often resembling a secular church or a partisan think tank. The university's culture and practices prioritize ideological conformity over open inquiry and debate, suppressing dissenting viewpoints and compromising academic freedom. This shifts undermines the core values of a secular university and poses a threat to the integrity of academia and broader society. So I think it's very courageous because the guy now, I assume he has no job anymore. Huh? But that goes against the thing is like, well, I don't know, years ago, whatever, if you would say, well, this is based on a Harvard study and Harvard this and that. It was the top in the world. It's like, yeah, whatever. But this guy worked there and he said, it's totally corrupt. It's totally corrupt. So that means articles, outcome, research, everything is totally corrupt. I am because I'm into behavioral psychology and everything like that. There's this Francisco Gina case who's a professor there. Well, now not anymore, but most of her research, I mean, is totally fraudulent. Yeah, she made up statistics to prove her point, which she couldn't prove, but then she changed the numbers. Yeah, so it's like it's clear. So when I read this article, I was like, yeah, that's what I read from other sources. But if a lot of people say, hey, but it's Harvard who say this thing, that must be the truth. So what this guy is, well, he's not even saying, he's proving it, he has experienced it, is like, don't accept it because it's totally corrupt. Yeah. So if there's something like you should have this medical treatment, A, B, or C, or whatever, it's most likely funded by big pharma, and it's got nothing to do with your health. It's got about getting you into paying new treatments or using new medicine. It's got nothing to do with your health. It's totally corrupt. So that is shocking because, well, I don't know, but what does it cost to study this? Something like 100K a year. It's like people pay fortune, yeah, and the students are in debt for most of their life. But it used to be like, hey, but I got Harvard, so that means you automatically get a good job. But now that's, I would say, it's totally worthless and very important. Don't send your kid to Harvard or whatever, because it's a waste of time, money, and intellectual effort.
And I think I mentioned it before as well, that it was a guest today on my speaking podcast. There was some thing that people are regurgitating, this is a Harvard report, and you've all top speakers around the world regurgitate it, and never happened. So just be careful with the information that you get, and especially like we can see now, it's coming out, but there's so much biased information, and it's all paid for, and even the FDA, this is FDA approved and everything. You couldn't get a more corrupt organization. So be very careful on what you're actually basing your decision on, and just start researching a few people, start looking at a few sides, question both why they're thinking this way, why they're thinking that way, and eventually you'll actually get the real truth. So that's all for this week. So you'll find Arnold on braingym.fitness. You'll find me on roycollin.com, or scan the QR code. You'll find my 6 podcasts. Be sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating, share with your friends, and we have a donation button. Help for our cost. This takes hours to prepare, as you can probably imagine. So anything we'd appreciate. Until next week, take care.